is going to be quick because you've seen it all before. I am going to chop this Green Dragon Pothos because it's so big now. It's way too tall. I can't have it in my house. I'm going to chop it up and I'll put it in Leca and I'll show you how I do that. Let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is identify where you're going to make the chop. So I don't want this plant to be so big. So if I probably cut it off somewhere here, I'm going to lose some of these leaves because I want this top part to go into Leca. So I'll chop it off here and then I'll remove it from this moss pole. I've got my knife that I sterilized earlier and I will get chopping. I'll take this leaf off. There, that's a bit better. I want to chop that plant off there. Okay, so my plant has now been chopped and I want to detach this top moss pole from the bottom moss pole. So take the cable ties off. From here. Okay, that separates this part from that part. And then, oh, hang on. I now need to separate the front part of the moss. So this wire mesh is attached to this wire mesh. So I just cut that off there. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to make that cut. I'm going to have to make that cut a bit higher up because it's so embedded in there with the area roots. I just cannot get it out. So I'm just going to cut there. Oh, there we go. Ha! Gosh, that is, you can hardly see me. Okay, so that is the top part of the plant that I've taken off. And, whew, that was a bit tough, I have to tell you. That is the bottom part of the plant. So I don't need the bottom part of the plant anymore. I'll probably be donating that to some lucky person because I don't need this one. It is living in soil and I don't want it anymore. Now, this baby here is what I'm going to be working with. So I don't want it living on this moss pole. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my other plant. And I'm going to take it off this moss pole and put it on a different one. So in order to separate the plant from the moss pole, I'm just going to take the moss pole apart. So I'm removing the cable ties that attach the plastic sheet backing to the mesh. And off that goes. So that's moss that hasn't been used, and I can use that for a different moss pole. So this is the top part of the plant that hasn't yet developed very big area roots, and that's why it's easy for me to take this moss off. So that comes off rather easily, but once you start getting towards the base, it gets a bit difficult because these area roots have had the chance to really embed in that. Look at that. Look at that area root. Can you believe how big this root is? It is humongous. So I'm just going to take this plastic back off because I'm no longer going to have a moss pole with a plastic back. So I'm just going to take that off. So that's the plastic back off. I'm just going to throw that in the bin. And this is what I'm left with. That's my plant there. And I am going to build another moss pole around this plant. So all I need is another bit of wire mesh there. So it's going to be something like a D-shaped moss pole, to be honest, because I want all that to be preserved in there. And look at that. Look at those gorgeous roots there. That's my plant there. Absolutely gorgeous. So I could, in theory, so I've got another piece of mesh here that I'm going to use to reconstruct this moss pole. So that's going to go right there, and that's going to give it that moss pole shape. But before I do that, I'm just going to pack this up with sphagnum moss. So this bit's here. So this is moist sphagnum moss. That all goes in there. So just enough, not too much. I think that's all the moss that we're going to need. So I'm now going to reconstruct that moss pole. I've got my wire mesh there, and just making sure I tuck in all the roots that are sticking out, like that one, just making sure I tuck that in, and that goes nicely into the moss, and I will start to reconstruct my moss pole. So I'm just going to put cable ties all around and make this a moss pole again. Okay, I'll now cut off the bits of cable tie. So that's my plant there. I've reconstructed the moss pole. That's a nice round cylindrical moss pole, and that is my plant. And this is the bits of the plant that I chopped off. So that's going to sit on top of the leca and is not going to go inside, because I don't want that to get root rot. I need that to color silver. But that is it. Look at how beautiful that is. I love my green dragon. I haven't taken very good care of her lately, but look at what she's given me. So from now on, I'm going to be a great plant mom, not put my plants outside. And yes, I'll now pot her up, and I'll show you how I do that. So like last time, I am going to attempt to pot this up in a 14 centimeter pot. I hope this time I have better success. I have put some holes right around the top of that pot, and I'm going to put some longish cable ties in there, because the idea would be to actually fasten the plant to the pot just to aid with stability. Now, because I don't know exactly where I'm going to need to do this, I'm just putting in the cable ties wherever I can, and if I don't need them, I'll just pull them out. But trust me, doing this is so much easier than trying to put this in when I've already got the leca in that pot. It just becomes such a nightmare. I've learned this the hard way, folks. So that's what my pot looks like. I am now going to attempt to stand up my plant and pot it up in this. But before I do that, I'll show you what else I've done. I've actually attached a metal rod to the back of this plant, and I've left that bit is where the pot is going to go, and it's going to stand up like so. So I'll bring you down and I'll show you how I get on. So I've put some leca in that pot already, and I'm gonna stand that up like that. I'll try and line up my plant to where I've got the bits that, oh, hang on. Okay, so I've got my cable tie here. I've pulled that out a little bit, like that. And I'm going to put my metal rod through there. And that's how I'm going to secure that. So, in theory, I can do this single-handedly, or I'll just lean the plant against myself and do it that way. That is as fiddly as. Whew. Okay. All right, that is the moss pole attached to the plant. I'm now going to fill this pot up with leca. Fill the back with leca as well. Okay, so this is my plant here. If you like this video, if you found value, please don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps my channel. I've actually been able to pot up this plant in a 14 centimeter pot, and get it to be standing upright without any support whatsoever. Gosh, this is a winner. So that's it. That's how I chop up my Green Dragon Pothos that's grown way too tall for its moss pole, and I put it on a different moss pole, and it is now standing up and it is now living in Leca. That was epic. Not as hard as it was the other time, but that plant was way bigger. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.